then ready to get started, and we're bringing Brent back. Brent, join us, and we'll get into our panel discussion.
Okay, this is an incredible opportunity for you to basically learn some things. We have all these individuals conveniently aligned in process orientation from 111 down through the end. One of the things Michael mentioned that I do when I, in some of my free time, which is pretty limited, is work with the CAPE program, which is the equivalent of California's Baldrige program. And the first category in that group is leadership as well. And Michael indicated that probably 80% of what's in Baldrige is maps over with the C entire roadmap. And I think that's very true. Companies that do really, really well within C are also companies that do very, very well in Baldrige. And Baldrige has actually changed their program a little bit to apply at the national level. You now have to apply through your state program. So looking forward to seeing some of your organizations in the very near future involved with that. Okay, the format for the panel discussion will be that we're going to give each of our panelists about 5 minutes to talk about their particular leadership process. And then immediately after that talk will be an opportunity for you to ask them some questions. Perhaps panelists might have some questions amongst themselves as well. So we'll have a few minutes to discuss that particular leadership process, and I'd appreciate it if we could keep pretty much on topic with that particular leadership process, because we are going to address them all. And then if we have any time at the very end, we can take some general questions. But this is a real valuable opportunity for you to probe the minds, search for some best practices, ask some questions of individuals that about these leadership processes. How do we do it? How do we make it actionable in our organizations? So we're going to start off with Tim, and I'm going to ask each of the panelists basically to introduce themselves and do a quick intro, and then we'll just go down through each of the processes. So Tim?
Thanks. Tim Holland, can you hear me? Tim Holland, Graco Supply Company. Got some slides for me here. So I'm going to try to do this without my glasses, looking at the audience. One of the things that starts telling you you're not immortal is whenever you got to have the reading glasses. You're looking like this, so I'm going to abandon these this morning and try to do it without. So Graco Supply Company, we're headquartered in Fort Worth, Texas, and I'm going to do strategic planning today. Interestingly enough, I'm going to present something that we've been working on since about 2006, and the point in that is if you're new to C and you've been doing some things and you say, well, you know, I don't want to redo everything, the message is you don't have to. You know, the C processes are structured so that you can work and blend in the progress that you've made and blend that into the overall C effort, and that's what we've done here. Okay. We are a little bit different than a lot of you in C in that we're not a manufacturer. We are a distributor. We do some manufacturing type processes. We do specialty packaging of paints, adhesives, sealants, solvents, lubricants, and greases to point of use sites inside of our customers to help them have a leaner supply chain. And we work it with the OEMs, with the MROs, with the Tier 1s, Tier 2s, up and down the entire aerospace. We are a 99% aerospace focused company, and you see some of our premier product lines at the bottom. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm going to breeze right through these because we've already looked at them this morning, the 1.1.1 strategic planning, and so why don't we go to the next one. This is the C process. You do your preparation, you do your SWOT analysis, your planning session and deployment. So this is the standard C process, and I'm going to show you how we apply that in our own group. We started our strategic planning exercise around 2006. We did a buyout of the company in 2002. We had a 5-year plan we operated to around 2006. It was time to refresh that. And we adopted, with a strategic planning coach, a process that's the one-page strategic plan written by, it's in a book called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. It was founded and written by a guy named Vern Harnish in around 1996. And it's really a pyramid of what's your core values, timeline if you look from the left to the right, forever down to today, and what's your pyramid of values, core values, purpose, targets, goals, actions, schedule, and then to the right, how you fit that into your company structure, what you should do, why you should do it, where, what you're going to do, how, when, and who, down to daily and weekly accountability. Okay, go ahead. This is actually 2 pages. We call it a one-page plan. If you cut it in half down the middle, it is 1 page. It's 8.5 by 11. It's on the front side and on the back side, and the timeline runs left to right. And so your one-page strategic plan, you start with your core values and your purpose. Then you start with your actions and what your BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, paraphrased. And then you set your 3 to 5 year targets and what your key thrust and high-level thrust and capabilities are to reach those targets, and what are some key performance indicators around that, and what's your brand promise and your overt benefit. And if you look at our website and you look at all of our marketing material, our brand promise is sell the right things, sell things right. In our business, we sell a lot of time-sensitive materials, paints, adhesives, sealants. Any of you that are using those know that the shelf life and the certification and the paperwork is just as important as the material itself. And so you got to sell the right things to the right application, the right specifications, but you got to sell them right with all the certs and all the paperwork and all the shelf life. So it's a little bit like selling milk sometimes. We always want to go to the back of in the milk aisle and get the freshest product, and that's what our customers like too. So. And then you take, just to the right of the first page, you break it from a 3 to 5 year goal down to what's your goal for this year, and what's your key initiatives and priorities for this year to reach those goals that you've set before you. The next page refreshes actually every quarter. So we take the 1 year goal, break it into 4 quarters, and have the key performance indicators for the quarter under actions. And then we do a SWOT analysis, and I'm going to show you a flow chart of the process that we do in just a second here. And then what are your rocks that you need to break up and get out of the way and accomplish, your priorities you need to accomplish to get to the goal that you've set for yourself, and what are your 1 or 2 critical numbers. We try to pick a theme for the year and then pick a sub-theme for each quarter. We have a quarterly reward and celebration if we're able to reach those goals. And then from a personal accountability standpoint, everybody on my staff on the senior management team fills out on the right what their personal accountability for the quarter is to support those rocks on the left-hand side of the page for that quarterly activity in support of the yearly goal. And so I fill out the first one of those during the planning session, which gives the other managers to see where my head is and where I'm going, so that they can link in and follow the lead. And then we put the opportunity, as part of our SWOT analysis, we take the opportunities and the threats to exceeding that plan and put them up at the top. Okay? So if you look the way we do it, we start off with a budgeting planning process every year. Our year ends February 28th, so we kick off in November with a strategic planning meeting. We do a bottoms-up sales forecast from the sales guys, pull them all together, start the sales forecast process, and around December we bring that in, look at it, and then we start our strategic planning. First thing we do is validate that our 3 to 5 year plan is still valid, that we don't need to update it. Once that's validated, then we complete the annual plan for the next fiscal year, and we do that through December, January, February. We have it completed around January. We present it to our board of directors. And then from that, once that annual strategic plan is approved, then we break it into quarterly planning meetings. We meet every quarter at the end and beginning of the next quarter. And we review last quarter's results, and we make sure the annual plan, there's nothing that's changed significantly. And if we have to update it, we will, because things move fast in this industry. And then we complete the plan for the next quarter, and then we fill out those rocks, which is the quarterly tactical planning. And then we look at our results from the previous quarter when we do that. Then most importantly, after that, when we go communicate it to everybody. So, okay, next. That's very quick, but it's very important because we communicate the results of the quarter plan and the next quarter's plan every quarter to all of our employees. We share the critical numbers and the goals and what the challenge is that can result in reward. So things we've done right. We actually, the 2007 financial year is the first year we were on this. We've had year-to-year double-digit growth. 2009 December, we had a long-term contract we'd had for 9 years that represented 23% of our company's revenue. We had a lot of planning in September, October, November, December. We did that year to how are we going to offset that and sustain our profitability and sustain our business. So that next year, we replaced 57% of that lost 23% revenue. In 2010 and in 2011 last year, we had 26% growth for the company. We also incorporated this ROCKS concept through the entire management team. So each senior manager with their staff, they do the same reporting quarterly, and then weekly we have a report out on what we're doing to accomplish those quarterly ROCKS weekly, and we start that on Monday mornings. We have our management team, and then we flow that through the company. So incorporating that through the entire management team has been very helpful because everybody's focused on the same page and on the same goals. The other thing is regular open communications with all of our employees. Quarterly meetings, monthly KPI updates, and we share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we open it up for questions and hold ourselves accountable to our employees as well as our shareholders. Things we could do better, things that didn't quite go right, things we learned. Having an outside coach helps. Actually, as part of this process in 2006, my management team fired me as the strategic planning coach and hired the consultant that introduced this to us. So I hurt my feelings for about a day, but it really helps because now I can sit back and look and think big picture, and we can all communicate as a team. There are times when we have to take control of the wheel, but it has been very, very helpful, and the continuity of that has been helpful also. The other thing is when you communicate openly with your employees, they're going to ask you a lot of tough questions, and you better be ready to answer them, and answer them to the best of your ability. No is an answer. That is an answer too. But to kind of tie this into yesterday, many of the internal KPIs that you're doing are really not important to the customer except for 5, okay? And where's Frank? Where's Frank Thompson? The first 3 are cost, right? Cost. And then on-time delivery and 100% quality performance. And that's a little bit in jest, but there's a lot of truth in that as well. So, okay? I think that's it. Thank you. And there's my contact information. We are in Fort Worth, Wichita, Tulsa, Georgia, North Carolina, and El Salvador for the emerging MRO market in Latin America, Central and South America. So if any of you would ever like to stop by a site that you're close to, please feel free to. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Tim. A couple questions for Tim.
Hold on. Let me get to Wendy first.
Question, Tim. With having different buildings in different places, and you're bringing on new employees, with your core values, mission, vision type statements, how much time do you spend with new employees, getting them, indoctrinated into your program? That's question one. And then question two, how often do you think you should review your core values, mission, and vision, and make sure they're still pertinent with what the business is up to in the economy and the industry?
We revisit the core value, the easy one first. We revisit the core values every year in our annual planning session and validate those. And then we have 5 key business objectives that's driving the year. And so that gives us a chance to refresh everything and look at everything fresh in our annual planning cycle. For new employees, we have all of our quality policy, our vision and mission statement, and the job description, and for new employees that either the supervisor or manager in that group sits down and goes over with them as part of their induction into the company. But we don't do a lot of audit preparation. We tell people we need to be audit ready every day. So they've got to pick that up in the first 60 to 90 days so that they understand the rhythm of the company. And then we'll go by and talk to people. Senior management will go by and talk to people and ask people if they've been trained and if they understand. And that seems to work.
Okay, comment up here?
Yeah, is your strategic planning team only made up of senior level management and then it cascades down from there, or how's your team made up?
Today it is, but we've had a very large senior management team, 9 out of about 70 employees, and then there's a management 2 group that's the mid management that also participates in the quarterly ROCs planning, and then we'll bring everybody together. The one thing we do from a company standpoint, technology wins is one of our core values. And so when we have a company meeting, we go to meeting, and I put on a headset, and we give everybody the same message at the same time across all of the company. And is that helpful?
Yes, it is.
So,
Hey, yeah, one more question. I think you have a mic?
Yes, absolutely. Tim, having multiple sites such as you do, and your executive management team cascades down the strategic plan, does each specific unit within your organization then create an additional plan that will support your strategic business plan?
There's a site manager at each each site. Up until this year, they've all been on the senior management team. We're approaching $50 million this year. That's a kind of where structure needs to change, and the systems need to change, and so we're now going to have an exec VP of operations that works with those sites to make sure they're all coordinated as well. I don't know if I answered that well for you or not.
Okay. Michael?
Can I add just a quick one? Tim, you showed some formats on your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you think you would make those available for people to download to see?
Sure.
If we put them up on the C website?
I think that's copyrighted, so we need to look at that.
Okay.
But it is but you can go to gazelles.com. It's a Word document and an Excel document, and you can download it. So even though it's copyrighted, they've put it right out there to download. So we'll work on it.
Great. Thank you. I'm sure as we go through this panel, we're going to have a bunch of questions that you'd like to ask, or other questions that will come up during the as you're pondering some of these thoughts. After the session this afternoon, or maybe during lunch, or during another break, would be a good time to maybe corner an individual and ask them your question if we don't have time for it during this panel discussion. But thank you very much, Tim. That was great. That concept of the rocks, that was really kind of cool, wasn't it? All right, second leadership process we're going to talk about is leadership communication. And I'd like to ask William McGinnis to come up and share about that topic.
Great, thank you. It's an honor to be here. We've been HC now for about 4 or 5 years, but a little bit about NTS. Again, much like Tim, we don't manufacture a product. We're in the service business. And one of our initial challenges was trying to figure out a number of years ago, is really C right for NTS? Does it fit a service organization? And I'm here to happily say it does. Processes are processes. We've done a lot of work in leaning out our processes, and we've actually used the leadership track to really help the organization execute strategy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the leadership communication track, kind of following Tim, which is the strategic planning track. And a little bit about NTS is when we started, we were spending a lot of time on the strategic planning activity. We're using the balanced scorecard tools, the strategy map tools. We developed a number of objectives on the strategy map, linked them all together, and basically we were going to, we seem to have a pretty good handle on our strategy track. So as we engage with C, one of the things, or one of the tenets that I was certainly mindful of, and I had heard during the process, is 9 out of 10 companies mainly focus on the strategy track. 1 out of 10 execute. Well, I was all about execution, and I can stand here today and say the fundamental learning that we as an organization dealt with is leadership communication really helps you through the execution of strategy process. So if we go to the next slide. This is a leadership communication track. In this track, you'll see a lot of words around senior leadership, and it really is, it's the senior leadership that has to take the initiative on the communication track and then cascade that through the organization. That's certainly one of the tenets I've learned, and I certainly believed in our communication process. What we did is, if we go to the next slide, we developed a standard operating procedure for leadership communication. So we actually developed a procedure to sustain our process. We developed communication streams, and I'm going to show you some of the streams we looked at, both formal and informal, on the next slide. And again, as I said before, the role or the initiative had to start with me. And one of the things I learned in the process is you got to get out there, you have a strategy, you need to communicate your strategy in an effective manner, and there's a lot of streams to do that. You'll see that in a minute. You have to be open to feedback. Tim talked a little bit about that in his presentation, but that's a requirement. You can't be afraid of those tough discussions. You have to deal with the issues. And what we saw is, as we got out there as an executive team and talked about our challenges, the needs of the market, the needs of the company, and also what do we need the employees to do, we actually developed a very cohesive culture, an aligned culture, and it really helped us drive our execution of strategy forward. So if we go to the next slide, these are some of the communication streams that NTS tapped into. Again, some of them are very informal. And I put it up there because it kind of describes some of our thinking on the communication side. Day-to-day interactions. We lead an organization with 24 remote facilities. We have a facility in Japan, and we have a partnership in Germany. So communication is a significant challenge for us. So we brought in our senior leadership, our facility managers. We got the communication process aligned through our procedures, and then basically encourage these folks to be open and communicate wins, challenges on a day-to-day basis. Employees started to feel empowered, engaged, and they understood how their role played into executing strategy. Water cooler conversations, and I kind of say that tongue-in-cheek, is a lot of informal discussions with employees happen around the water cooler. And I encourage you, if you can tap into the informal side, you get much more or much richer feedback than the informal side. One of the things one of the tenets I kind of run around the organization is I say, God, I hope my formal communication process someday gets as efficient as my informal communication process, and things will be great. And I really mean that, so think about that. Then the formal side, email strings, get out information to the employees in a timely fashion. Interesting, one thing we had to deal with on the communication side is, do we embrace social media? You know, there's a lot of, with the newer employees, that's how they communicate. So how do we embrace, if we're going to embrace social media, how do we embrace it? And we decided, hey, look, that's just kind of the new reality, so we better embrace it. So what we did is we said, look, you know, we'll communicate through social media activities, Facebook, LinkedIn. But we also set up rules of engagement for the social media site so our employees didn't trip up and use it inappropriately or inadvertently. So that's kind of how we thought about that. Typical things, bulletin boards, meetings. I get around to every facility, either myself, depending on bandwidth, or our senior executives, and we do a town hall meeting at every facility every year. And what we do is we update our employees on current events, state of affairs, how they're performing. I think Tim hit it right. We have to be brutally honest. If you're not doing well, we got to talk about it. If you're doing well, then let's celebrate it. So we deploy that thinking. We have an intranet. We deploy a lot of messaging over the internet. My view is that's probably the least effective, but it is there for people that want insight and some information on what's going on at the company, communication portals. And then we have the formal HR structures. We have the handbooks. We do a lot of onboarding, new employees. We want to integrate these new employees. Again, it's all about velocity of execution. How do we get these employees hitting the ground quickly, understanding what they need to do, how they impact the execution of strategy, and what's required of them. So we spend a lot of time with new employees on the front end. But even before that, when we interview employees, we're not only looking for their skill sets, which I think is incredibly important, but we're looking for a chemistry fit. What are they going to fit that culture that we need to be successful going forward? So those are areas that we spend a lot of time with on the front end. Next slide. Things we learned. I mean, it's really simple. It's a commitment. It's a discipline. So commit to continuous communications. If you basically go out there and you communicate and then kind of lose that discipline, then you don't sustain that execution of your strategy. Communicate several different ways. People hear the messages differently. So when you're communicating the messages, you saw the media on how we get the message out there. And we really use all the informal and formal processes. Provide the messages at different levels of the company leadership. And that's all about working with the facility managers and their leadership group, is get the message, get an aligned message, encourage them to get out there and be open and honest. A lot of times it's not easy for those folks down at those levels who have some day-to-day challenges out there to be as robust on the communication process as we need them to do. So we spend a lot of time educating our leaders throughout the organization, and we also encourage our leaders to communicate, so we develop stronger leadership on the shop floor, and that works very well. And again, I think the last message I really want to leave today is solicit feedback. Don't wait for it. Go out there. We go out there with a formal employee survey every year, and we actually ask the tough questions, and we get the feedback. But that's not enough. If you don't do something about the feedback, or you don't go out there and communicate to the employees what you're doing about their feedback, then I think it becomes kind of a lost process. So we do that. Not only do we solicit feedback, we actually get out there and talk about what they told us, and then we talk about the plans on what we're going to do about it. So we do that in a formal process. So those are some of the things we learned. So, I'll open it up to questions. So thank you.
A couple of questions for...
Thanks, Doug.
There we go. Just one, let's see. Yeah, one thought I had is I really appreciated the point you said about strategy is important, but communicating that strategy is really, really vital. It was kind of interesting that you thought that the intranet was not really primarily. You got the sense of what you didn't see that as a really primary tool. Is that especially true with the new workforce?
Yeah, well, it's our internal intranet, and some of our employees certainly go there and look. I would say they look more for information, specs, things versus kind of an open communication process. That's just what we found. The newer employees that come in, I mean, they are definitely social media focused, and not only are they social media focused, that's how they're communicating with each other. So I'd encourage you to tap into that process if you want to know what's really going on in your company. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I was going to ask, do you guys have a Facebook page so people can tap on? I mean, you said you set rules.
Right. Right, we're actually more LinkedIn focused than Facebook, and it's probably more me getting used to Facebook to me is a little more socially liberal than LinkedIn, so how's that one? Is
Okay,
that being
so-
politically correct?
Being is this about communication and setting rules? And you said, when you started looking at social media, you were trying to set some rules. How about email? Do you have a written email policy?
We do, but that happened much before. We've been using email for years, so again.
Sure, everybody has.
Yeah, it's again, there is, and you need to be mindful that these processes or applications could be used in a negative fashion. So we have a very strict policy on emails, what you can and can't communicate. God forbid people are using them for abusive reasons. I mean, none of that's acceptable. It's written and it's communicated to every employee and every year.
And then so all of, I guess, during orientation.
Right.
I guess you can see where my questions are leaning. I'm looking at, bringing new people on because business is growing. We just saw that.
Right.
We're going to be bringing a lot of new people on, and I'm thinking, how do we be careful with all of these leadership strategic items on making sure we're onboarding every new employee we bring on? So, and that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, that's music to my ears. I mean, clearly, the quicker, we almost saw this through the process this morning, the more you know about what you need to do and what's expected of you, then by definition, the more effective you can be, again, in executing your strategy. So they need to know about your strategy. I had a consultant tell me one time, he says, Bill, they don't get it by osmosis. So you got to get out there and you really got to spend that time letting them know what you expect of them. And it even came up in our discussions yesterday. I think, Doug, you said, it all comes down to communications and the content of what you're communicating. And that's certainly something we recognize.
Okay, one more question here. Mike?
Bill, you have a lot of facilities, so I think this might apply. And some of those facilities probably have common practices or tasks, from facility to facility. So how important is it to you to have communication between people at different facilities around the world?
Well, it's important for a couple of reasons. One, again, just as you stated, consistent processes, and what we did is when we rolled out the C roadmap, we took a little bit of a challenge. We actually focused on an enterprise process more than a facility process. And I'm not sure if I had to do it all over again, I would have went there because it was a huge challenge. But some of the benefits, we put cross-functional teams together across the U.S. So, we got, as we looked at our value streams and enhancing our processes, employees got an opportunity from Massachusetts to spend some time in California, going through the training, the process improvement techniques. So there was a real cultural benefit for the organization there. The other thing is we tend to level load. Some of our facilities may have a lot of work during a month, and others may be a little light. So if we can focus on some of those consistent cross-training activities, then it's a lot easier for us to move employees to different facilities and manage the workload more effectively. So those are two big reasons.
If you'd allow a follow-on question?
Yes, we have a little bit of time, but yes, go ahead.
Given that it's useful to you to have employees from different facilities comparing notes, if you will.
Right.
I'm wondering about, you can't fly people to different facilities all the time, so as an ongoing mechanism, that's probably not reasonable or affordable or practical. But I was wondering if you have any other mechanism among all the stuff that you showed us that facilitates the comparing of best practices and things between facilities, and if so, what's working the best?
One of the areas from a technical standpoint that we do is, again, it's kind of benchmarking our services amongst facilities. Having a lot of facilities allows you to kind of really drill down on the best practices. So we actually use webinars. We actually have teams across the country that specifically focus on a technical challenge. We deal with the people that are developing the specifications, our clients, we kind of look at their needs, and then what we do is we innovate a process to meet those needs. And we're able to do that through the enterprise, through webinars and technical media.
Very interesting, use of webinars.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give Bill a hand. Thank you. Yeah, I am going to be watching our time pretty carefully. I know Kenny has the unenviable position of being the last person to speak to us before lunch, and I don't want him to to go too much stress there. So anyway, we're going to continue on here. Now, Mario Robles is going to talk to us about organizational performance review. Thank you.
I was also going to not use my glasses, but I noticed I can't read the words on there, so if I take them off. MPC Industries in their second, going on third year of membership with C. And the primary reason why we joined C was we had some value stream and Kaizen expertise. We really didn't have a roadmap. We were lacking some checklists. We couldn't see where we were starting and where we were going. So the roadmap was the main reason we joined. So I'll be presenting on a performance review, and this is one of the gains we got out of joining C and using the roadmap. The next slide shows the C flow chart. Well, I guess here's some points on organizational performance review, and some of the criteria is how do senior leaders review the performance to ensure that the organization has success, and how does that performance turn into activities or priorities involving continuous improvement. The next slide. Here's the C flow chart. I'll go ahead and go to the next one. I'll show how we took that. We took the C flow chart, and that was really our worksheet that really got us going. It gave some good ideas. This is the flow chart we ended up with. So you start at the top, we do our strategic review, we identify our targets, goals, and roles, and that gets deployed to production and the support group. So now we have alignment and priority across the organization. And you see production and support groups, they all attend the daily production meetings. And so we're constantly getting feedback on day-to-day activity and how we're doing with the projects that are scheduled. Those daily production meetings, we do a capstone every Friday where we have our weekly meeting with monthly topics. I'll show how that works. And those weekly meetings really feed into our quarterly management review. And we have those every quarter, and then by then the year ends and we're back at our yearly strategic review. So we always look at what we did, what's going on in the industry, what's going on in the marketplace, what's going on with our customers. And so we take the year that just completed, what the future looks like, the forces outside our organization, the forces in the industry, and we start the cycle all over again. Next slide. So if I were to summarize it in conclusion, if we were to summarize it, here's the 4 things we do. We do a yearly strategic review. We do quarterly management reviews, weekly meetings with monthly topics, and daily production meetings. That's our performance review. I'll dive into each one into the next slides. It won't take too long. The next slide, here's the yearly strategic review. I won't go over all the items of it, but on the agenda, we do the industry and marketplace update. That's crucial because to me, that's deploying information and insight to my team so they understand the logic and rationale behind a lot of the strategic initiatives, the continuous improvement goals, whether we're hiring, the rate that we're hiring, what projects we're putting up for capital budget approval, that type of stuff. So it's important to me that the team understand the logic and rationale behind the decision making. I actually get a lot of enjoyment out of this. I spend a lot of time going to conferences, meeting with customers, networking, and that end of the year allows me to get it all back consolidated and present it back to my team. That's our yearly strategic review. Next is our quarterly management review. We are ISO and aerospace certified. We just merged the two. So our procedure calls for 2 management reviews a year. We actually do it quarterly. So we take a more ISO AS approach there. We look at our inputs, our outputs. We look at our strategic initiatives and projects. And this used to be 1 day, but I really started getting a lot of participation and feedback from my staff. And to me, that feedback meant that they were understanding and taking ownership and really being involved in owning the strategic initiatives. That's a big deal. So we broke it up into 2 Fridays now. So now we meet Friday for about 3 or 4 hours just on the inputs and outputs, the customer feedback, the results of our audit, internal audits, corrective action. And then the second Friday, we just really spend a lot of time reviewing our Kaizen improvement and strategic initiatives. So focused discussion, we take our time, there's no rush. That's been working for us. Next is our weekly meetings. You know, we all have production reports. I'm sure you have your own production report. What I wanted to share is at the bottom, the rotating topics. This works very well for us. The first Friday of the month, we review the quality system. So our quality manager gives a quality report. And the last half of the agenda for that Friday staff meeting just focuses on quality. The second Friday would be the safety steering committee. We just focus on safety. The third one would be project calendar review, Kaizens, small projects, large projects, capital budget projects. The fourth Friday is sales, customers, and marketing, new accounts, upcoming accounts, anything related, any changes in the industry or announcements from Boeing. And interestingly enough, if you look at a calendar, every 3 months there's a fifth Friday, and that fifth Friday is when we hold our quarterly management reviews. So this is what I meant by our weekly meetings with monthly topics. So we are assured that these major topics are addressed formally at least once a month. And again, what's I'm really proud of is the manager for each specific area holds that section. So the quality manager gives us quality review. Our safety manager reviews that. Our director of technical services does the project calendar. I do the sales, customers, and marketing, and then I run the management reviews. Next is our daily production meeting. I'm sure you have a daily production meeting. What I did, we have 2 production meetings. One is with the process owner and the lead man, because we start at 4 a.m. in the morning. So by the time we have our 7:30 a.m. production meeting, their day's almost halfway through. So the process owner's lead man, they have their own production meeting early on in the day, and they just review the previous day and that day's schedule, make any adjustments. And then they have meetings of high-level decisions or open items, and that's presented at the staff meeting with me and the managers there present. So a more focused meeting for the process owners, more relevant to day-to-day. But I need to be updated on a daily basis. Our managers do too, and so that's a little bit higher level meeting, and that's why those 2 meetings a day work for us. Things we did right: we have very few canceled meetings, and I think there's very few canceled meetings because the meetings are value add. That's if you go to one of our meetings and you're on our staff or you're an employee there, you get meaningful information. So it's we don't have a lot of canceled meetings. Our meeting and reviews are based on topics, not people. So we rarely cancel a meeting because I'm not there. As a matter of fact, I tell the staff, I don't even plan on me being there. You need to take the meeting and run with it. So because 1 or 2 people are missing, the meeting doesn't get canceled. It keeps going. There's always meaningful information being shared. We do a good job of documenting. There's always previous meeting minutes or action items that are documented. And we have a lot of involvement. Few people just sit. Everybody participates. I've noticed over the years the level of discussion has been at a higher level. The ownership has been with the right people, and we have a lot of dialogue and debate at our meetings, which is good. We rarely say, when somebody presents something, we rarely all say, yeah, that's right, let's go with it. There's usually a lot of questioning, a lot of discussion. It's a great place to be. Next slide. I noticed that when the managers present, they've been doing continuous improvement with the content of their presentation and the type of presentation. So I've noticed our quality manager has gone to more of a using this projector to show his graphs and trends. And so when the safety manager did his, he had a PowerPoint presentation. And so I'm waiting for somebody to show up with a video pretty soon. But it's not extra time. They're not spending hours on it. But it is very succinct. It's to the point, and it's on task. And I think everybody needs to present at a high level, and it needs to be very lively discussion. So that's been one of the things that I learned is it's kind of a little friendly competition there. Accountability. The presentations are accurate. I've had a couple people come up to me and say, this person wasn't prepared. You almost know when somebody did not prepare or prepared that morning. So I think we're holding each other accountable now. We're not letting mediocre presentations go by. And continuous improvement. Our agendas continue to improve. The meetings keep getting shorter, but yet more impactful with more information. So continuous improvement on the meeting process. Here's our model. I presented it. I'm sticking to it. That's my story. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's interesting, using meeting cancellation rate as a leading indicator of the meeting effectiveness. That's great. A couple questions for Mario.
Okay, I guess it's me. Mario, we went through pretty fast, so I may have missed this, but some people, as a part of their management review process, have review of cell review, stand-up meetings on the floor and things like that. Do you have anything similar to that?
Yes, we do. We just initiated a stretching and exercise program. So what it means is we have 50 employees, so about 43 of them are on the shop floor. So we just kicked it off this week. Everybody gets in a circle. The senior supervisor's leading the exercise. It's stretching. It's not jumping jacks or running. So they stretch. They move the wrist, the finger, the arm, move up to the shoulder. They put one leg out just to get the lower body going. The intent is their first movement should be without resistance and without weight. It shouldn't be go grab the gun and start doing something or pick up a piece of machine. So if their first movement is without resistance and without weight, and we're all doing it together and everybody's there, then I think it'll warm up the body, it'll warm up the limbs and the joints, and when they do go pick up that first machine or that first screw, they're kind of already warmed up. So if you can imagine 50 people in a circle doing their exercise, and the last thing they do is they clap, as I told them, you need to clap, and then they all go to their department production boards, and the process owner goes through the production boards, and he has an agenda reviewing the previous day, the quality for the previous day, the schedule, completion rate, and then what the plans are for that day and the hours and any changes that'll be. That's. I didn't mention it because it just started. It just kicked off.
Great. Yes, Mary.
So in your daily production,
Manny.
the production personnel are actually involved.
That's their level of involvement is 4 a.m. exercise start, 4:06, 4:07 exercise ends. They each go to we have 3 departments. They each go. So if you were there at 4:10, you would walk onto the shop floor and you see 3 groups with somebody leading a discussion in front of a communication board, and that's their level of involvement. Any issues coming from there would go to the process owner lead med meeting. Any issue that's still not resolved there would go up to the 7:30 staff meeting. You're welcome to come by at 4 a.m. and join us if you'd like to see that.
Fantastic. That's very impressive. 4 a.m. Okay, well, we're going to move. Thank you. Let's give. We have another.
I have a comment.
One more
I'm sorry.
question.
Mario, that's so cool. Without resistance, without weight. You said that in terms of what they were going to then start doing when they went to work. But I think I kind of applaud you, and I don't even know if you meant this, without resistance and without weight. If that's the way you start your day, I'm not going to put up a fuss. I'm not going to resist. I like being here. There's no weight on my shoulders. I have a smile on my face. I'm giving a clap. I'm moving forward with the beginning of my day. That's awesome. It just is.
Oh,
it's a great train of thought.
Yeah, thank you. And really the principle behind that, or the concept behind that, is we want all our employees to feel, really genuinely feel that they are part of a team, that they're contributing, and that they matter. So we can do that. I can do that by telling them that, or we can do that by our actions, our policies and procedures actually exemplifying that. That's.
I wrote that down. I'm taking that with me, without resistance and without weight. I really like that.
Welcome to stop by at 4 a.m. and.
We start at 4 a.m. also, so I
Okay, so-
understand.
Yeah,
I could be there.
That very well could be worth getting up that early for. I really think it would be. Very good. Let's move along. We have to keep the pace up here. So next we're going to ask Doug Greene to come up and share with us about continuous improvement management. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I think I just want to make the comment. There's a lot of material here, and it seems really complicated, but it's really not that complicated. So don't get overwhelmed with all of these. Once you get into it, it's easier than it looks. Hixson's been doing it for about 3 years now. We did start in the leadership. You may have noticed Hixson's very passionate about leadership and culture. It's what we are. The business of business is people. You have to focus on your people, and that's what we do every single day. We run 24 hours a day, so if you want to come at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're welcome to come to us. There'll be somebody there not exercising yet, but we're looking at it. So, anyhow, we basically are in the metal finishing industry. We supply finishing products and testing to the aerospace, defense, and commercial aircraft industry. Been around for about 50 years or so. So in an effort to move this along, I've been asked to talk about the continuous improvement management 1.1.4. Go to the next slide. So again, I said it's easy, and again, we have about 700 words up here. So we like to simplify things at Hixson, and so go to the next slide, and you'll see it simplified. Is that Mac having problems again? Great. Okay, so that slide before simplified is what we call SIPC. We're all in the aerospace industry, so we get to coin all these little acronyms, and this is what we call it. Basically, 1.1.4 is all about how do we select, prioritize, staff, implement, and evaluate. And it's that simple. Next. Literally, we do it through a lot of the C trainings. A lot of these things you'll recognize. We do try to keep it simple, especially when we're doing continuous improvement, any type of lean maturity issues. Some of our key practices are Kaizen events. If we want to go into a department that we think needs some help and certainly looks like they may be a bottleneck, we'll instantly put together a Kaizen event. We can usually do a Kaizen event preparation, couple days, 2-day Kaizen event, little report out, and you've got some rapid improvement. So we use this as a rapid improvement tool. Then, of course, success is really key to our company. We like a visual presentation. We want to make sure that employees come to work and have a nice atmosphere, whether that's a fantastic lunchroom, whether that's all the right tools. So we do a lot of success. We have a group that comes through our entire facility, unknown, every single month, 12 times a year. They might come at midnight. They might come at 6 a.m. They look at everything. They open every drawer. Unfortunately, they look at my office and open up my drawers as well. So I don't know how to get around that, but I scored okay last week. But they look for everything, and they're looking for a standard of appearance. Boxes need to be at right angles. Labels need to be faced out. Light bulbs need to be lit. Everything needs to be in place because that sets a tone. It sets a culture that the management cares about the employees. And if we care about the employees, we care about their environment, they're going to care about all of your parts. So it's setting a message and a scene. We also do a lot of Lean Six Sigma projects. Those are very long-term. We look at them from a standpoint of variation. How do we reduce the risk? In our masking department, we look at everything based on risk. How do we minimize the risk to all of our customers? How do we tell Parker that tomorrow we'll have less risk in the product we provide to you? How do we tell the Boeings of the world our variation is dropping day after day after day? It's not just about PPM, and it's not just about OTD. It's about reducing risk for your customer and certainly at the same time reducing risk for your employees. Next screen. Additional standard practices, standard work training. We're developing a competency-based training program. We've set up our own university. We've built a really nice training room. 5% of the total time of employees at Hixson, they will be in training, some form of training. Doesn't necessarily mean it's just training for key skills to their job. It may be time management training. It may be organizational skills. It may be, better writing practices so that, they can help their children at home, those type of things. Our continuous improvement project prioritization matrix, we do the same thing. every year at the beginning. We look at the projects we want to do, the Kaizen events we want to do. If you don't get it down on paper, if you don't say what you're going to do throughout the rest of the year, you'll end up in March, you'll end up in December, and you won't have these projects done. Get them done up front. Continuous improvement schedule, same thing there. It's just a documentation of telling the company, setting the expectation of what we're going to do in the very beginning of the year, starting in January. Next. Some of our communications, as Bill pointed out, we believe the communication is the key to any relationship, whether that's with your customer, whether that's with your employees, whether that's with your daughter or son. It's crucial to communicate clearly. We use a lot of different methods. Kaizen report outs. We always do report outs to management on a Kaizen. Department dashboards, we're fairly proud of those. We tell the employees every single week we change all of our dashboards. It's not once a month, it's not once a quarter. Every week, every dashboard in our company is updated and sent out and posted for all the employees. We post them, but we don't talk about them. The subject matter experts and the lead in those departments, they have those dialogues. If they need some resources, if they need some tools, they come to management, and 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. Improvement walls, where we've been, where we are today, because you kind of forget as a company. You do a lot of great things, and then you don't remember the past. You want to make sure you know that you can look at the past and see what you've done, so it gives you a sense of accomplishment, a sense of improvement. We just installed TV monitors throughout our entire production facility, and these TV monitors are not about production. They're not about, oh, get this part done. They're about, let's just celebrate your birthday. Let's celebrate this individual's having a child. Let's celebrate safety. Let's celebrate, the pride in our industry. We're going to put up movies of rockets taking off, of aircrafts, and have conversations. You guys produce those parts that go on those aircrafts that save lives and certainly help war fighters and those type of things. So it's going to be an inspirational thing. Certainly, if anybody has an idea or ideas that use them today, we'd love to hear about them. But more or less, it's an electronic newspaper for the company. And of course, we always graduate every ceremony. I don't care if you've had 2 hours of training, you get a certificate, you get a handshake from the president, and you get a thank you every single time. That's critical. And what? And cake, sorry, yeah, and cake. We give them cake too, I can't eat the cake, I'm too big. Okay, next. Our overarching improvement methodology, I think a lot of been talking about this, is basically we plan, we do, we check, we act. And then we plan, we do, we check, we act. So that's the critical foundation. It's simple, we like simple things, we like to keep it simple. If you do this, 9 times out of 10, it'll work. And then you can ask some 5 whys and a couple other things. But this is the cornerstone of improvement, especially if you're looking at improvement on some type of a quality issue or something of that nature. Next. Things we did right. We have monthly success audits. It's been fantastic. Do they love them? Not necessarily. Do I love them? Of course they don't. But my assistant gets in trouble if my office doesn't look good, so it's not so bad for me. Measuring and controlling the results, dashboards. We're at about our 4th or 5th generation of dashboards. We actually are going to change them again because we've learned some things. We know how to measure things differently. Data is important. Measuring where you are, where you're going. Most importantly on these dashboards is the trend, the direction. Are you getting better? Well, we might not be there yet, but are you getting closer to your goal day after day, week after week? And of course, we have the process owner leadership. Next. Things we did right. We involve the employees in decision making. Every single time we have a Kaizen, every single time we're going to do something, change things, we always go to the employees and ask them, what should we be doing? What should we be looking for? We refurbished our lunchroom a couple years ago. We brought everybody in and say, tell us what's wrong with the current state. Tell us what you need in the future. Tell us what your wish list is, and we'll take care of it for you. You've got to tell them by your actions how critically important it is for them to come to work and honor us with their time, their dedication, commitment. Employee recognition, we talked a little about graduation ceremonies, improvement boards, TV monitors, and then again, Kaizen follow-ups. Next. Things we learned. Plan your improvement projects, then add 30% more time. We plan these things all the time, and all of a sudden, at the end of the day, we run out of time. So we just say it's going to take 2 days. Well, we add another, third of day there, or half a day. You've just got to add time because we all think we're really smart, and sometimes we are, and sometimes it just takes longer. 80% of your time should be spent on the P of Plan, Do, Check, Act. Everybody, and I think we really saw that today, had we spent a lot more time planning in our little exercise right up front, we would have been at stage 3 rather than at stage 2. We would have surpassed stage 4, at least with my group. So planning, planning, planning. And then lastly, don't implement improvements in a vacuum. We had a Kaizen event. Again, we've been holding Kaizen events for 3 years. We're pretty good at holding Kaizen events. We went in, we took everything out, we moved some equipment. Somebody forgot to tell maintenance, by the way, you're in an improvement project. Guess what? We had no electricity for 2 days until they showed back up on Monday. So I can tell you, make sure you look at that circle and make sure that everybody is in that room talking about the improvements that are going to go on. Don't do it in a vacuum. Next. That's it. Thank you.